May 20th, 2010, and I'm standing in the Gulf at Henderson Beach State Park in Destin, Florida. Yesterday I had my BP safety training at the Pensacola Civic Center in downtown Pensacola, and it was just a general training for veterinary professionals and scientists. So there was only a few people there, but it was kind of a general safety training for this specific site, this specific incident. They're calling it the Mississippi Canyon 252 incident. Basically, the BP has contracted out a company called PEC Premier to do safety training for us, for volunteers. There's 3 different modules of training, modules 1, 2, and 3. 1 is for non-professional volunteers. Module 2 is for folks contracted out by BP to do cleanup work, and Module 3 is for volunteer scientists and veterinary professionals. So yesterday they just talked a lot about heat stress, and because we're going to be wearing fully covering, like, Tyvek jumpsuits when we're out there handling the birds and cleaning up. And they kept stressing the slogan, "Stop the job." Like, if something doesn't feel right, don't do it. Because obviously the disaster wouldn't have happened if somebody had stopped the job. I mean, there's a lot of people whose job it is to regulate things, and it still couldn't have prevented. So, I mean, the person that was doing the safety training really didn't have any specific information about what exactly we were going to be doing or where we're going to be going, because the projections keep changing as to where the spill is going to be hitting. If it gets caught up in the Gulf loop current, it'll actually miss the Gulf Coast where I'm standing right now and head down towards the Keys. 90 tar balls were reported yesterday in the Keys, so that's pretty disturbing, especially because there are so many protected coral reefs down there, and it could actually be taking up towards Miami.
So I'm back in Weston, and I needed to add an important part of the oil spill response training story. So after I recorded the first part of the tape yesterday, I went to the Emerald Coast Wildlife Refuge Center, which is in Destin, Florida, and they had told me 2 weeks ago that to volunteer there and help with the birds or help with the oiled wildlife, all I needed to do was get my hazmat training. Well, I got my hazmat training, and I told them that, and they said, "Well, I'm really sorry, but a lot has changed in a couple of weeks." Basically, new volunteers aren't allowed to help with the oil response. Even if you have experience with animals, you have to have been volunteering. Yeah, you have to have been a volunteer for at least 3 months with that facility. I don't know if that is specific to that place or if this is a rule for all the wildlife rehab places, or I don't know. But they said they had to turn down a lot of awesome people because they're not allowed to take new volunteers, even if they're experienced with wildlife. The other thing that the woman at the Emerald Coast Wildlife Refuge told me was that they have a protocol that anytime an oiled animal comes in, they have to call BP, and only when they get direction from BP are they allowed to start treatment. She said that a pelican came in a couple of days ago, and they didn't know what to do because they don't have the appropriate disposal facilities for hazardous waste, because once they wash the bird off, everything coming off of the bird is obviously a hazardous material. They don't have the right disposal, they don't have the right receptacles for that. So they were just waiting. They ended up waiting 4 hours for BP to call them back so they could start treatment or figure out where the bird was going to be going to. She also told me that BP told them they have to wait 3 hours to do anything with an animal that comes in so they can stabilize. I don't know what stabilize means. I guess maybe it means get used to their environment so they don't get stressed out and die. To me, I see that as, as soon as an animal comes in and rehabilitators start working with them, BP's tab is running. So it's cheaper for BP if the animal dies waiting to receive treatment than to get the rehabilitation that they would have gotten anyway. I mean, any animal coming into a wildlife rehab place is going to get treated. It doesn't. It's not like they need to show their insurance card. But now, because it's BP's bill, they're not allowed to. Oh, and one more thing. Part of the BP safety training was they told us that when we see wildlife on the beach. Now, mind you, this is the Module 3 safety training for veterinary professionals, scientists, biologists. When we come upon an oiled animal on the beach, we're not supposed to touch them, because if the animal dies in our presence, or if we're holding them, we are liable. The individual is liable. BP is not liable. So when we come upon an animal that's oiled on the beach in our Tyvek suits with our buddy, we have to call BP. We have to call the BP Wildlife Hotline. We're not allowed to handle it, even if we're authorized oil cleanup workers. We're not allowed to do anything until we call the BP Wildlife Hotline, and all we're allowed to do is report the position of the animal.